So to go in more in depth into Kant's metaphysical presuppositions about reality and to help you better understand how he might respond to the extraterrestrials with respect to the lions killing the zebras and Gacy killing children or boys, human beings, he might want to go ahead and elaborate as follows. Non-rational beings, is the category to which the lions belong, right? He would say they're purely sensual. This means that they are acted upon. They are wholly, completely determined by causal factors beyond their control. They go by pure instinct. They're not equipped or designed by nature to think about or question why they behave the way they do or whether they ought to do as they do. So in that picture of the lions, you don't see one lion saying, "Hey guys, I'm feeling kind of iffy about what's going on here," or you don't hear another lion saying, "Don't you guys deep down inside feel this is wrong?" No, they don't do that. They are born with a DNA that tells them to kill live animals, to eat, to survive. And it doesn't tell them like with instructions. They're just driven to do it. So Kant is going to then explain to the extraterrestrial that the lions and all purely sensual beings, all non-human animals, lack the capacity to formulate principles and rules that might guide their choices and direct behavior. He would say it is impossible for those lions to even conceive of the moral law, much less right or wrong. Humans, being the mixed beings that they are actors who act upon. We have the ability to choose the principles or rules that direct human action. We are self-determining. Reason is the power that makes us actors, insofar as reason enables us to think about and question why we behave the way that we do and whether we ought to do as we do. So if Kant was giving a tour to the extraterrestrials via a safari and a museum on serial killers, he might say that the lions lack the capacity to conceive of the moral law and to stop and think about what they're doing as right or wrong, and that it doesn't even really come into play. They're just going by instinct. However, he might try to argue that Gacy dude, any serial killer, does have the power to think about right and wrong and question whether they ought to do as they do, whether or not the way that they are behaving is right or wrong. And so he would emphasize that humans, being the human animals, being the mixed beings that they are, totally have the capacity to formulate rules that might guide choices and direct behavior. In other words, it is possible for human animals to conceive of the moral law of right or wrong. As articulated in the Encyclopedia of Philosophy, we are neither wholly determined to act by non-rational impulse, nor are we free of national impulse. Hence, we need rules of conduct. We need, and reason itself is compelled to provide a principle that declares how we ought to act when it is in our power to choose. Since we find ourselves in the situation of possessing reason, being able to act according to a conception of rules, there is a special burden on us mixed, blended beings. Okay, so in a moment you are going to be doing some fill-in-the-blank items or some matching items. And one thing I want to stress to you is that this slide has non-moral statements. There is not even a meta-ethical statement really right here. It's just metaphysical presuppositions. That's all there is there. Then when we get to this slide from a previous video, here we still have purely non-moral statements, statements that are just metaphysical statements. Here, we start off with metaphysical statements right here, right? But then right here, when we're talking about pure instinct and reason, on the third slide, we are getting into metaethical statements. And the same thing down here in these little, I don't know what color that is, fuchsia or fuchsia lavender or light fuchsia. Here we are getting into some metaethical statements. So one of the things, but they're not moral statements. So we have not articulated any moral statements yet. But what we have done is we have, in virtue of the 4 slides that I've gone over through here, what we have done is we have looked, let me see if I can change this to make it more interesting to look at. Okay, what we have done here in this video, or through the 2 videos, is we have looked at some of the metaphysical presuppositions, no moral statements in here, and moved from the metaphysical presuppositions, right, about human beings. And of course, before we could do that, we had to look at this, wider category of statements about metaphysics, to some metaethical claims that connect to his metaphysical presuppositions, which lead to more metaethical claims, right? But nowhere in these 4 slides did we have any kind of moral statement being made. What I'm also trying to get you to see is that just as we did with Bentham, we are looking at some metaphysical and metaethical presuppositions, assumptions, ideas that lead Kant to claim eventually that he has discovered or is presenting to us a general moral principle that we should live by, that we are compelled to live by. But first, he's giving us his metaphysical and metaethical presuppositions. And this should really help you understand the reading even better when you see the author talking about reason, reason, reason.